even though you have Alzheimer's? Is it something, do you feel like because you've been in this for so long that it's actually, really kind of helped you in your journey in this process?
Well, it's helped me get knowing because I know that it's such a frustrating disease for the caregiver and for the patient. It is
Mhm, mhm.
extremely frustrating. Um and or can be, especially for the caregiver because
Right.
it's you never know. It's up and down
Right.
and you don't know it's sideways, it's whatever. And
Mhm.
a lot of people, unfortunately, they'll say, "Oh, I know she has Alzheimer's, but I just told her." Well, you can't just tell her because it doesn't last. It doesn't
Right.
last.
Right.
It'll go that quickly. And people don't realize it. And they get upset. Then the person gets upset because you're saying, "I just told you." Well, saying "I just told you," they already forgot that, you know.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's whatever. Um, it's helped me some, and then I think about, because I'm, especially since I've always been so much in control, the thought of my losing control scares the hell out of me.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth season of In the Telling, a global Black family podcast. I'm Miranda Mims, and I am joined by my wonderful, wonderful co-host, Stephen G. Fullwood, and we are the founders of the Nomadic Archivist Project, which is a grassroots-driven effort to protect and celebrate Black material culture.
Our guest today is Constance Connie Gross. Connie was born in 1937 at Harlem Hospital in New York City. She earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from Baruch College and relocated to Rochester, New York in 1982. That same year, she founded Sophisticated Sex Incorporated, providing secretarial administrative services to the state of New York, local small businesses, and neighborhood residents, including basic tax preparation and bookkeeping. She later launched a second business, Congro and Associates, specializing in promotional and specialty advertising. In addition to her entrepreneurial work, Connie taught part-time at Bryant and Stratton College, offering courses in dictation, English, and secretarial studies. After becoming the primary caregiver for her mother following an Alzheimer's diagnosis, she transitioned into public service and ultimately retired from the Rochester City School District as a parent liaison at the age of 71. Connie has also been deeply engaged in civic and community leadership, serving on numerous boards and committees, including United Way, the Health Association of Rochester, the Lewis Street Center, and the United Neighborhood Centers of Greater Rochester Foundation. Her longstanding volunteer work reflects a lifelong commitment to education, economic empowerment, and community development. Welcome to In the Telling, Connie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
We're excited to have you on the show. Looking
Yes.
forward to hearing some of your stories.
Yes.
Okay.
And Connie, how we like to kick things off here on In the Telling is to allow you the space to sort of ground us in a little bit about who you are. I mean, we already did your bio, but we'd love to hear from your own voice. Tell us who is Constant Gross.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. How can I start out this? I'm always involved in something or another. That's all I can say. And it's interesting because at this age and stage, which is almost 89,
Mhm.
I realize that I am who I am, and I've always been this way. And I didn't realize certain things I didn't realize, but I'm always involved in something or starting something, and I didn't realize that. But and
Mm.
when I say that is because now I live in a community, retired. Well, it's not retired; it's retired because it's all old people. But in it, senior assisted living.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when I first went there and sat there for a while, and I'm listening, oh, we don't do anything, we don't do anything, we don't do anything. I got up and got a piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, well, what do you want to do? And we have not stopped doing since then. But what I didn't realize was I'm going to get, Connie, what are we going to do? Connie, are we going to do this? And I thought maybe I taught them how to just do, but
Mhm.
they have to call Connie to find out what to do. And sometime I just hide. And I find that very interesting that,
Mhm.
like I said, looking back and really discovering who I am and who I've been.
So now you are in Rochester, New York, but you were born and raised in Harlem, correct?
Right.
Let's go back. What do you remember about your childhood in Harlem?
We were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. I grew up in a 6-room apartment,
Mhm.
and it was my mother, my father. So they had their bedroom. I had a brother. I have a brother. He had his bedroom. I had mine, and we had a spare room.
Mm.
So school was right across the street. I lived in Harlem, and we had everything. It was contained. We had movies, and we had 125th Street, which was like equal to Fifth Avenue. You had Bloomingdale's is downtown. We had Bloomstein, 125th Street, and that's where you would go if you wanted something a little bit better or whatever. But you
Yeah.
could go downtown. You didn't go that often because you couldn't, and I didn't really remember this for a while, but we couldn't go to the restaurants down there. There were certain restaurants, there were certain places that you really could not go to. But my mother's best friend, a Jewish lady, so she used to take me and my brother and her daughter. We did go to places that other people could not go to, I guess.
Mhm.
So we did a lot of stuff that some children could not, the Black children couldn't do
Mhm.
because we
Right.
were allowed to go there. But everything would come. We had the churches. I remember bringing in I won't say the circus, but we had different kind of entertainment, and it was always available. And New York City, everything is there. Everything
Mhm.
is
Yes.
there. So
Was the segregation back then formal, or was it just known that you weren't allowed to go into certain places? Were there signs up,
it
or
was
was it
all of it.
just, it was everything?
Okay.
It was all of that. I didn't realize when I got married in 1956. I didn't have an apartment yet, so we were with my mother. So I found an apartment. I was working. For my first job was in Bellevue in the serology lab in the pathology building of Bellevue Hospital, which is a gigantic, enormous place. But found an apartment, called the lady, and talked to her. And being my name is Connie Gross, and I guess she couldn't tell who I was over the phone. And so anyway, was up on the west side of Manhattan, nice apartment, not apartment, it was in a private house, but nice section of New York. And I knocked on the door, and I'll never forget because I had to walk, and I thought, well, it's not too far from the subway, but it's far enough. Anyway, I walked up there, knocked on the door. The lady opened the door, saw my brown face, and slammed the door in my face.
Mm.
That was the first time that I felt I could have killed someone,
Mm.
because I wanted to turn around and knock on the door again and ask her what was wrong with her.
Mhm.
And I remembered in my walk, I had passed a policeman, and I thought, if you put your hands on this woman, you're going to jail. But that
Mhm.
was the first time that I ever felt what I felt, because I
Yeah.
had never had anyone. You knew, because again, you knew where you could go and where you couldn't go. And
Right.
I asked her, see, because again, New York City didn't just was prejudiced against Black folks. Jewish people were having a hard time also. And when
Right.
I asked her over the phone, was it integrated? And she thought I meant for Jews because of my last name. She didn't know I
Mm,
was Black.
right. Okay.
See, yeah, because Jews couldn't live a lot of places also.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think that people forget that about the North when it comes to some
Oh,
of
it was
these
worse.
lines versus the
Yeah,
South. Correct. Right. Yeah. Because there is so much, like you said, that's overt, but there's a lot of unspoken. And so you never really know how, to navigate, or you didn't know how to navigate
Hmm.
back then.
right.
Whereas in, a lot of southern towns and cities, it was very clear.
It's clear,
Um,
right?
yes,
Hmm.
it
Mhm.
was clear what you could and couldn't do and where you
Hmm.
could go and couldn't go. But so what were your parents like? And how did they help you like navigate New York City? Because it's a big city too. I mean, you said lots of things going on, Harlem, and
Hmm.
an amazing place.
Well, it's a big city, but I'm sorry for cutting you off, but we have good transportation, so you can
Hmm.
go anywhere. Take the bus or the subway, and you could get anywhere. Um, my father was the one. Um, I would say that he probably had more education than my mother, but my mother had more mother wit and was smarter in a way, you
Hmm.
know. And she's the one that went on and so forth because they eventually is separated when I was about 10 or 11. And she moved on. She always wanted more. Daddy was very happy with his family. He was a family man.
Hmm.
He was a machinist, but you would never know it because every day he went at the house and he left in a suit and tie.
Okay.
Now, he had, as a machinist, he had to change his clothes because I remember my mother would wash his work clothes and his apron that he would work, I guess, wherever he went to work, you know.
Hmm.
But if you saw him, you would have thought he was a banker going to work.
Hmm.
But I learned a lot. And especially, I would say, especially from my mother, because she was a pusher and she showed you how to do things, just in even saving money. And I would spend money and she'd say, you're not saving your money. And I said, I don't have to. You're saving yours. So, but because of her and because of that, I do know how to save. I came out of a time and a place where when they say that the neighborhood raises you, everybody was there. There was old
Hmm.
lady Thomas that was on the stoop. That if I did anything while my mother and father was at work, as soon as they hit the stoop coming home from work,
Hmm.
they know about
They
it if
know.
Connie did anything. Mhm. So it was a neighborhood, and you learn to respect your elders. You did this, you did that. If Miss Thomas wanted to give me some money for doing something, I was not to take that money. I just smile and say, keep on going.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm excited about learning about your decision making for moving from New York City to Rochester. Like what prompted that? Was it a business opportunity?
Well, that was so interesting because that was really like a spiritual.
Mm,
It's hard to explain, but the beginning of the year, yeah, 1981, the beginning of that year, I don't know, something happened, and I knew internally that my life was getting ready to change, but I didn't know how. I didn't know if it was a new job. I didn't know if it was a new relationship. I didn't know what it was, but it was always a positive thing. In August, I came up to Rochester to visit who I call my brother. He was like a brother to me. We were very, very close. And I came up to visit, and that was in August. I spent a week. And then I left and I went back home, and I got a call from Robert. saying that somebody wanted him to talk to him about owning a nightclub, a bar. I won't say a nightclub, a bar. And I thought about that and I said, he can't do that because he didn't have the personality.
Hmm.
I said, but I've always wanted a nightclub.
Oh,
And
Ooh.
I did, but I wanted a nightclub. And the feeling was I needed two joints to afford the kind of club I really wanted. Because a joint would make some money, but I really wanted an upscale club. I knew people in New York that owned clubs, smalls, and those kind of places in Count
Mhm.
Basie's. And I sat and talked to them before I came up and got sort of a crash course on, some of the stuff
Mm.
you need to know. I came back up in October and I talked to people. And the guy that was talking about selling his bar, well, he was employed by Kodak, but he did own the club. And anyway, and I sat down and I talked to this man, and it was interesting. So I started to flirt with him because I knew I wasn't going to do business with him, and he was a good-looking guy. Um, but I knew that he was a con man. Listening to him, and I'm
okay.
thinking, oh
Mm.
no, 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 this is not going to work.
Right.
But I told him, I said, I'll give you an answer tomorrow. Give me 24 hours and I can come back at you. And so he was going to rush me. So I told him, I said, look, if you got to sell it or got a buyer, go ahead, because I'm not giving you an answer until tomorrow. But I knew at that point that I was not going to deal with him.
Mm.
But the thing about it is, what I found in Rochester that I didn't see in New York City at that time. And it was so interesting because the time was really just beginning to change in the United States of America financially, because it was on its way to a really downfall. This was the early 80s. And
Mhm,
that's when things started changing. And I didn't realize that the banks in New York City that were on Fifth Avenue, they were closing because of the rents and stuff were getting too high. Because I guess inflation was just stuff was beginning to move and we didn't see it. The ordinary person didn't really see it. And
mm.
I didn't notice it until way later. But anyway, I came to Rochester because I looked up and I saw there's a Black community up here that's making money. Black folks up here were making money that nobody else was making because you had Kodak, you had Xerox, you had IBM, you had what's the
Boston
eyeglass
Law.
place? But yeah. And I mean, there was industry here and people were making money. The fellow was sweeping the floor and Kodak was making more money than the people in New York City when some of the Black folks walking down on Fifth Avenue. And
Right.
I thought, they've got the money, so I can go and do something, and they'll back me. Ha 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 ha. Forget my company, Sophisticated Sex. It was a kick at what I found in Rochester. But
Okay.
anyway, that's another story. Mhm.
How did how did
So,
your family feel about you moving to Rochester?
well, actually, my mother was in Alzheimer's, but I had no idea. But it was the beginning, and she was not happy about it. My best friend was not happy about it, but and I felt very good. And I know that it was supposed to happen because I had a job. I didn't want to really give it up because I didn't want to lose my investment in the company because I was vested. And I said, well, because when I came back in October from Rochester, I knew then that I was moving. I was going to come back. I was going to move here. I couldn't do that business, but there was, like I said again, when I looked at the financial situation here, I said,
Mhm.
I'm coming back here. And so I went home and started preparing and whatever. But I said, now what am I going to do about my job? Well, God had a hand in everything. I told you it was a spiritual movement.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I got to tell these folks that I'm leaving and whatever. And if I worked in the movie industry for marketing research, well, it wasn't a research, but a marketing company. And in fact, it was named Cinemax before the Cinemax.
Oh.
They took the name, and I told my boss, I said, you need to go to court. And he did go to court, and he did get some money because that was our name, Cinemax. But he had been a executive at Warner Brothers or whatever. So all of that to say, I'm coming to Rochester,
Mm-hmm.
and I came. So
Mm-hmm.
the hard thing was really trying to tell these people at my work, because I didn't want to give up the money, but I thought, okay. So I said, okay, the day after Thanksgiving, when we come back, I said, I got to tell them that I'm leaving because I'm not coming back after December. I'm not coming
Mm-hmm.
back. Well, like I said, the financial situation of the United States started hitting a lot of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And we shared offices with Joseph E. Levine, who was the movie director. Okay. We shared office space with him. He was giving up this office space. It was down on Madison Avenue. And when he gave up, and we all had a couple small offices out of his office, my boss said he was closing the business.
Mm.
And I thought, thank
Oh,
you,
divine
Father.
intervention.
Yes, when it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be.
So
And
you didn't have to tell him then,
I
right?
didn't have to tell him because the day after when we came back from
Right.
Thanksgiving, he sat us down. But the blessing was I left, and I left with my money, and it was good. At January 29th, 1982, here I is.
And Connie, did you have to bring your mother with you when you came the first time, when you first moved?
No, I didn't bring her because I was by myself. And
Okay.
in first place, didn't realize that she was sick. And things were big happening. But at that particular time, nobody knew anything about Alzheimer's. And what I did do was she had a 2-family house. I moved her out of her house and put her into my co-op apartment because we had a doorman. My cousin lived next door. So I put her in a safe environment. And I say that because things had begun to happen. She would call and say somebody had come in and broke in the house, and we'd go up there. I'd take my cousin's husband and I would go up there, and it was fine. There was nobody there. When we get there, she'd be, oh, it's so nice to have you visit. Well, I didn't come for a visit. I came to see who broke in the house. But again, had no idea. So when I moved her to my apartment, and she was familiar with my apartment and the neighborhood, but she would call and say that somebody came in and moved the vacuum cleaner or whatever. Again, I didn't understand it, but I just said, well, Ma, they don't do that. The maintenance people don't come in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, and it was from here. And I always say, God bless the person, because it was I don't know if they still call it the same thing, but it was something on the aging. And I called that one Saturday because things were beginning to happen, and I was upset because I didn't know what to do or how to handle anything. And I called them and talked to the lady, kept passing me along to somebody. Anyway, I finally got to this little old lady, explained my situation, and my mother was going through changes and whatever. She said,
Mm-hmm.
I will call you back. And when she called me back, she had talked to a priest in New York City, a friend of hers, and she called me back and had me an appointment with Mount Sinai to take my mother when she called me back. That was a saint. And I don't know that lady's name to this day, but it was a saint. And we would go back and forth. And again, not knowing in those days, they didn't know what it was. They said it could be a brain tumor or Alzheimer's. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said,
Okay.
I didn't know what to pray for because I just had a friend, her mother had died from a brain tumor. But
Okay.
I will tell anyone now, if I had known what it was, I would have prayed for a brain tumor. And
Oh,
Oh.
that's it, because
okay.
it's an extremely, extremely frustrating disease. But I brought her here afterwards, a couple of years, well, 5 or 6 years later after my move, because she needed more care. And I always knew that I would bring her here, but not having any biological family, I didn't want to move her, take her away from all the people that she knew, you know?
Right.
But it became apparent, let me bring my mother and taste so I can make sure she's taken care of.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
that was it. That's, then I had to sort of close down stuff.
And
Mhm.
how long did
Hmm.
she live with the disease? Or how long did she live with Alzheimer's?
Well, my mother she had it, people, and it's in my family because I'm in the beginning of it now. And my first cousins, female cousins, it's gone down a line. But it's slow. There's different kinds and whatever,
Mhm.
of dementia. My mother, like I said, this is going back, thinking back, because she died at the age of 86. Um, and I have longevity because my father lived to 100. So I'm going to be here for a while. And like I said, thinking back now, she had it for about 30 years or more.
Hmm.
Because when I
Okay.
go back and I think about I couldn't, she was taking a trip to North Carolina to see her sisters. And I had gone to her house the night before, packed her up, we're all ready. And I went up that morning to get her together. And her neighbor was going to drive us down to Penn Station. And my
Mhm.
mother was sort of walking in a circle, but I didn't really realize it. And I
Mm.
couldn't understand. And we missed the train. And I never really understood how that happened because we were really already, and she was a person that, she was very much together. And
Mhm.
like I said, all of this is in hindsight. Then I realized she was lost, but I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that was way before, that was eh, maybe 4 years before I moved
Mhm.
to Rochester. So she had it for quite a while.
Mm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. That
And
sounds hard.
like I said, it's slow moving.
And
Can
as
be.
you were transitioning into public service because you were a caretaker for your mom, how
Well, it
did
was
that just
at this point, Steve, I
Mhm.
needed a job because I had to close my business. It was a
Mhm.
small business. I didn't have a lot of whatever. And I needed a job. And the thing about it is once I put her in a nursing home, that was my mourning period because I knew
Mhm.
that was the end of my mother. That was the end of my mother. That was like her death to me. And that's when I
Mm.
mourned her. And I
Mhm.
sat on a couch and one day I looked up and I said, you can't pay rent. You better do something.
Mhm.
And that was it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. And how long did she stay in the nursing home for?
She was in a small nursing home for a couple of years, and then they did the new one at St. Mary's. So she was there a couple of years, 3 or 4 years at least, if
Okay.
not more.
Okay.
Hmm. See, my memory is going, but like on that is beginning to get a little fuzzy.
Mhm.
How are you dealing with that? You said it's in your family. So, in a way, were you expecting that at some point it would happen to you? How did you find out?
Well, I didn't, I did know because bringing her here, we became very involved with testing. U of
Mhm.
R was doing a lot of testing, um, and I was tested as much as she was tested. I was probably tested more in a way, and they're still doing the same tests.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they were trying to get. I don't think they've come up quite yet, with a definitive blood test,
Mhm.
but they were trying to do that way back. And I signed a contract with the U of R. Yeah, well, the people that were doing it was the U of R that were doing the testing and so forth on the blood thing. And they were supposed to come back and tell me what they found. And they came back after a year or so and they said they weren't going to share it. And I politely called them and told them, we have a contract.
Mhm.
You have to show me, otherwise I have to take you to court because you broke your contract. Well, they were smarter than I am, naturally. Now, they sat me down. We had a meeting, but I didn't have any physical papers. I was making notes, mentally and writing as fast as I could. But they were really trying to find a blood test, and they came up with 4 different things, and to this day, I can't remember what the 4 were. I know that it either was positive, negative, or maybe. Now, what could the fourth thing be? So I don't, but I know that I don't think they're getting close, but I don't think they still have a definitive blood
Okay.
test. But I mean, we were involved for quite a while with them doing the test. Now, you asked me about my stuff. Um, I've been aware for a long time that stuff, it's interesting because people around you don't see it until you start missing your words or start doing a little forgetting. They'll see you forget something. But in
Okay.
the head, the brain, things are happening, and only I would be aware of them. You're not going to know that. It's like recently I've been going through a thing of I needed to make some phone calls. I needed to call people. I cannot pick up the phone. It's like
Mm.
very overwhelming. Maybe I'll want to say tomorrow I decide I want to get up and I'm going to wash the floor, do this or do that. And I get up and I can't do it. It just becomes overwhelming. So my thing is, what I've done is not to frustrate myself. I'll do it tomorrow. And
Okay.
so far, this has worked because when I get up now, tomorrow is fine. I can get up and do this and do that. And, I'm just
Mm.
slow because of age and mobility, but I can
Mhm.
get it done. Now, the
Okay.
phone call thing is, I don't know why. It's like I don't feel like talking, and I'm a talker. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, but it's these kind of things that, and they seem everyday things can become overwhelming.
Okay.
And then I see that I lose my words. So what I tried to do is I tried to put things in place and set them, because if you don't, you and I will be talking, but my mind will be still trying to pull up that word that I can't remember. I'm trying to tell you something and I can't remember that word. And
Mhm.
my mind will be going, I will be driving myself crazy. So I've
Mhm.
decided, okay, use another word and get it over with. So we're talking and I want to say suspenders and I can't say suspenders. I'm going to say, Miranda, you know those things that hold up your pants. You'll say suspenders. And I said, that's it. And now I'm gone.
Right.
And it's freed my mind because
Okay.
I will otherwise bug myself to death.
Right.
I've been taking notes. I've just been thinking about some of the things that you've been saying related to how you are managing within this mental space, right?
Hmm.
You said that people don't know what's going on inside your head until you tell them, if you tell them, but
Right.
you found ways to circumvent this.
Well, you know what is so interesting? Like I
Mhm.
read and try to stay on top of seafood medicines and so forth. I was in a study and I prayed so hard. I went to church. I had them everybody praying over me. I got in the study. They did
Nice.
one test and they threw me out because my amyloids were not elevated enough. And I thought, oh my God, they
What are
threw me out.
amyloids? What are
Amyloids
amyloids?
are the plaque. It's plaque that
Okay.
comes in your brain, and that's what
Okay.
causes whatever. But anyway, but I
Mhm.
call the doctor, like, because I'll watch and read stuff or people give me information and I'll
Mhm.
say, what about this medicine or whatever? And he was very nice because I go to my chart and I'll type in what I want to know and had long conversations with him. And he was very nice and explained everything, but he wasn't using this and why he wasn't using it. And that was good. But his bottom line to me was, this is a neurologist that said, but you haven't been diagnosed with anything. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with you all? You've taken two scopes of my brain. You've seen changes. What do you need? And I don't know. See, because when I first went to the doctor, again,
Mm-hmm.
black, black, black. I went to the doctor. When they threw me out of the program, I said,
Mm-hmm.
I know something is happening. I am going to find a doctor that can follow me. So at that time, the only doctor I could do was at Rochester General. And we sat and we talked, and he gave me tests and so forth. I don't think he had ever met a black person that could put two sentences together. So because I could put two sentences together, there was nothing wrong with my brain.
Hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we did this you come back the next year, came back the next year, came back for 3 years. And just as going into COVID, was going to be the fourth year, and we did a virtual. We didn't do because of COVID. But that year, a little earlier, they had did, I guess we did the first CT scan. We were talking, and I said, well, had you done one earlier, like a couple of years ago, you would have something to measure it by. And he said, well, you've only been coming here a year. This was my fourth year.
Mm.
So when I hung up with him, I went and called immediately. And I said, I want a new doctor. Um, I know that there's nothing anyone could really do, but at least listen to me.
At the very
Know that
least.
I am someone. And
Right.
I mean, it was always the same way with this person. And I'm thinking, we can talk and we know this and know that. And maybe because I know a lot about it because I've been studying it for so long, I have files. When I first started, Mike had friends around the world that were sending me information because we knew nothing. The
Right.
doctors didn't even know. So
Right.
I've been collecting information for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
for you to just sort of swipe me aside,
Mm.
of course, I can speak proper English or whatever. I don't know what his problem was, but this is all I could think of.
Wait, you mentioned that, this is something in your family. Is this something also that you've been able to talk with other family members about who've also been diagnosed or feel that they have Alzheimer's?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that you've been able to, share with them and for for you all to like have a support system in it with it?
That's very interesting. No and yes,
Okay.
because it's I didn't most of being up here by myself in Rochester. I have, like I said, no biological family here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in New York City, there's still not too many of us because my brother and I were the only ones that were born in New York City. Or
Okay.
only had and that we had no real biological family growing up. All the people that have now come up, it was like the railroad, and you came through 208 West 143rd Street because we had an empty room, and so everybody that came up from North Carolina came through,
Yes.
and
Railroad. Okay.
yeah. But I have not, Miranda. Your question is, we will talk. And it's interesting because I had one cousin that did have it, and she died one, two, three almost. But I think again, because you can't change the routine. Routine is an extremely important thing in Alzheimer's. If you change the routine too drastically, um, you'll see it move. It starts running almost, and it's rampant. And this one particular cousin who was younger than I was surprised, but her husband died. They had been a very tightly knit family and everything. And by the time I realized that she had it, or her sister told me that she had it, and I'm listening, and she's saying, "Oh, she's being this way and she's being that way," and I said, "No, she's not." I said, "Because her brain isn't capable of doing what you're saying, that she's just being rude or whatever." I
Right.
said,
Right.
"That's the
Mm-hmm.
disease." And actually she didn't live that long, but I knew part of it was because of her husband's death and her life had changed so drastically. And the routine was gone.
Hmm. Well, that's a lot to live with, and it seems to me, but this might not be how it feels to you, Connie, but it does seem like, you because you know so much about this and you've been in it for so long, that you have really been able to improve your life because of some of these lessons, like routines. And you were saying, you
Mhm.
don't get upset when you feel overwhelmed about something. You just, you wait until you give it a day, you let it rest.
Mhm.
And you have other ways and mechanisms to like recall worries and things. Do you feel like this is helping you to, I guess, I don't know if I want to say like live a fuller life, but feel more in control of your life, even
Mhm.
though you have Alzheimer's? Is it something, do you feel like because you've been in this for so long that it's actually, really kind of helped you in your journey in this process?
Well, it's helped me get knowing, because I know that it's such a frustrating disease for the caregiver and for the patient. It is
Mhm, mhm.
extremely frustrating. Um and or can be, especially for the caregiver, because
Right.
it's you never know. It's up and down
Right.
and you don't know it's sideways, it's whatever. And
Mhm.
a lot of people, unfortunately, they'll say, "Oh, I know she has Alzheimer's, but I just told her." Well, you can't just tell her because it doesn't last. It doesn't
Right.
last. It'll go that quickly. And people don't realize it. And they get upset. Then the person gets upset because you're saying, "I just told you." Well, saying "I just told you," they already forgot that, you know.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's whatever. Um, it's helped me some. And then I think about, because I'm, especially since I've always been so much in control, the thought of my losing control scares the hell out of me.
Definitely understand. And my grandmother was also diagnosed, my mother's
Mm.
mother, Connie. And
Oh,
so I watched her, and it was really hard because it angered her to lose control, and it angered her um, to not be able to remember things and to feel like people were doing things purposely to make her
yep,
confused.
yep,
And so in that frustration, there was very, very difficult to watch, how, how deeply, um, that impacted her. And then, of course,
right.
at some point she just wasn't there anymore.
That's
Not in the
it.
way
Mm.
that, yeah, not in the way that, of course I
Hmm.
knew her. So it is really, really hard, yeah, for the people who are witnessing it.
That's why I said, once I had to put my mother into the nursing home, that was my morning. Now, when she
Yeah.
actually died, I was not upset. I mean, it did
Mhm.
hit me
Mhm.
where I would get periods occasionally, that it would hit me. But my depression really was once I put her in that nursing home and realizing, and I'm sitting on a couch and not doing anything. I'm
Right.
not working. I'm not producing any money. I'm not doing this. And I'm sitting there. And that is when I was in mourning,
Mm,
I feel you.
right.
you know?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And again, I was very fortunate in finding a job, because people will say, "Well, they got a directorship over this place is looking for that." And I said, I was not mentally ready to direct anybody, anything. I just wanted somebody to tell me, throw it up, catch it, turn it over, whatever.
Yes.
But tell me what to do. That's it. I'm not trying to fix anything or want to redirect anything,
It's
And
so good to know yourself. It's so good
yeah,
to know who you are, you know?
and and I went. It was interesting because through school, um, Miranda, you know Prudence? But
Mhm.
anyway, Prudence was a principal and through church. And she said, and I asked, did anybody know where I could get a job? And so Prudence said, well, you might go in because they're looking for this and that. And so I went down to city school district, and this again was so interesting. Um, and the gentleman is telling me about the job, but then he says it's 20 hours a week, and I thought, oh, this is not going to work. And so he sees my shoulders droop, and I droop, and he says, well, it's a different kind of contract. It pays full benefits and so forth. Well, full benefits. I am over 60 at this point. I am 60 at that point. And I'm thinking, I don't have anything in full benefits. I can scrub toilets for the rest of the money. I got it made. And so for the 20 hours, for a while, I would come home, and then right up the street, because I wanted where Kodak used to have something, there was a marketing research place.
Mhm.
And I got a little job there, part-time from 5 to 9, right up the street, right up Ridge. And I went Monday to Friday. It was wonderful. They paid me more per hour. So I'm making out. I'd come home, take a nap, go up the street, come back. That was it. And every now and then on a Saturday, you have to work. And then after maybe 6 months, school position went full time. So God brought me here. He's taken care of me ever since I've been here. So I really, really try not to worry about too much.
That is
Plus,
beautiful.
when you start worrying, you took it away from him. And, that's it. If you believe, my thing is,
Mm,
if you believe in God, you can't worry. Well, we're going to
mm,
worry, but you can't worry.
mm,
Well, Connie, it has been really wonderful to be in
mm.
conversation with you today. I think
Yes.
definitely have enjoyed hearing more about you, your story, hearing more about you and your mother's relationship.
This is what In the Telling is about. We love stories. We want folks to share stories and people to absorb stories. Um, so the very last question is, when you think about your life, what is the most important thing you think people should know about you?
Well, I don't know what people should think about me, but
Mm,
like I said, at this age and stage, and it's just funny how you do really reflect. And
mhm,
there's a couple things that who I am and how I've been. I do not like injustices. So Connie speaks on anything that I see. I don't care who it is. If I think it's wrong, I will let you know it's wrong. I say it with a smile, so I usually don't get knocked down or whatever. But I will tell you that that's not right.
mhm,
That's not how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to speak to that person that way. You're not supposed to treat that person that way. You cheated that person, fix it,
mhm.
fix your face, smile, you know, that kind of thing. And I also realized that I think I've tried to help people and not even realizing it, but I tried. So
I see.
that's who I am. And it's okay. There's some other things I would have loved to have done, but I haven't done them yet. But I never can tell, so we'll see.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you
right.
said your dad was he lived to 100, right? So you have time.
Get time.
You
We'll
have
see.
time.
We'll see. As long as I can, I will.
As long as I
Great.
can, I will. I love that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I feel you.
Well, thank you again for agreeing to being on the show with us. I hope that you
Mhm.
enjoyed sharing a little bit of your life with us and with our In the Telling listeners.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, I feel very honored. Thank you.
We are honored as well. We are.
Thank you.